Valoria? A land of rolling hills and shimmering rivers. Fields of golden wheat swayed in the gentle breeze. Laughter echoed through the bustling market square. For generations, peace had reigned over Valoria. King Hadrian, a wise and just ruler, ensured the prosperity of his people. His reign was marked by harmony and abundance. The arts flourished, trade routes thrived. Valoria stood as a beacon of hope in a world often shrouded in darkness. The castle, perched atop a verdant hill, overlooked the city. Its white walls gleamed in the sunlight. Within its walls, King Hadrian ruled with wisdom and compassion. He was loved by his people. Life in Valoria was idyllic. They went about their daily lives, oblivious to the darkness amassing on the horizon. King Draven was a ruler of a different breed. His kingdom, Drakenhold, was a land of jagged mountains and desolate plains. The people were hardened by the harsh conditions. They were forged in the fires of constant warfare. Draven, a towering figure with eyes like chips of ice, ruled with an iron fist. He was a fearsome warrior. His ambition knew no bounds. A prophecy had taken root in Drakenhold. It spoke of a legendary artifact, the Crown of Atheron. The crown was said to grant its wearer unimaginable power. According to the prophecy, this ancient relic was hidden within Valoria's walls. Draven, consumed by the prophecy, saw it as his destiny to claim the crown. He believed it rightfully belonged to him. Draven's court trembled before him. His advisors, wary of his wrath, dared not question his judgment. The prophecy was his sole obsession. He would let nothing stand in his way. Least of all King Hadrian and his peaceful kingdom. With it he would rule the world. News of Draven's intentions reached Valoria. The idyllic peace was shattered. Fear gripped the hearts of the people. King Hadrian, however, remained calm. He was a man of peace. He refused to let fear dictate his actions. He would defend his kingdom. Whatever the cost, he summoned his advisors. They gathered in the war room, their faces etched with worry. Maps were unfurled, their colorful depictions of the kingdom now stark representations of a battlefield. Strategies were debated, defenses planned. Hadrian listened intently, his gaze unwavering. He knew the gravity of the situation. Hadrian, though a man of peace, was no stranger to war. He had proven himself a capable warrior in his youth. He would rally his people. They would fight for their homeland, for their families, for their very way of life. For Valoria, for their king, they would stand strong. The news of war spread like wildfire. Panic swept through the once peaceful kingdom. The tranquility of Valoria was no more. In its place, a chilling dread settled over the land. The drums of war pounded in the distance, their rhythm growing steadily louder with each passing day. Draven's army marched toward Valoria. They were a tide of iron and leather, their numbers seemingly endless. They moved with terrifying precision, their armor glinting in the sunlight like the scales of a dragon. At their head rode King Draven, his eyes cold and calculating. Villages were emptied as people fled towards the supposed safety of the city walls. The shadow of war had fallen upon Valoria, and its darkness touched every heart. The once vibrant markets, filled with the sounds of bartering and laughter, were now eerily silent. The siege began under a moonless sky. The once silent night was shattered by the deafening roar of catapults. Stones the size of millstones arced through the air, trailing fire and destruction. They slammed into Valoria's proud walls, sending tremors through the city. The siege had begun. Draven's army surrounded the city like a constricting serpent. Their grip tightened with each passing day. The siege weapons pounded the walls relentlessly. Each impact chipped away at the city's defenses, both literally and metaphorically. The citizens of Valoria were trapped, their world shrinking with every passing hour. But it was not just the physical bombardment that wore down the defenders. Draven, a master of psychological warfare, ensured that the siege was a multi-pronged assault. He knew that to break a city, he had to first break its spirit. Days turned into weeks, and the siege dragged on. Supplies within the city dwindled. Yet, despite the hardships, the spirit of the Valorians held strong. They needed a miracle. As the siege raged, a glimmer of hope emerged from the shadows. A small group of elite warriors known as the Shadow Blades prepared for a perilous mission. Their leader, a woman known only as Lyra, was as deadly as she was beautiful. Her loyalty to King Hadrian was absolute. She would lay down her life for her king without hesitation. The Shadowblades were masters of stealth and infiltration. They moved like wraiths through the night, their footsteps silent, their presence undetected. Their mission: infiltrate Drakenhold and assassinate King Draven. It was a suicide mission, fraught with danger at every turn, but it was their only hope. Lyra gathered her warriors in the dead of night. Their faces, hidden behind dark masks, were grim but determined. They knew the weight of the task before them. Whispering prayers to the ancient gods, the Shadowblades slipped out of the city. They carried the hopes of an entire kingdom on their shoulders. Despite the valiant efforts of the defenders, the relentless assault of Draven's forces took its toll. After weeks of constant bombardment, a section of the once impenetrable wall crumbled. The ground trembled as a large section of the wall gave way. It crashed down in a deafening roar, creating a gaping hole in Valoria's defenses. Draven's forces, sensing victory, surged forward like a tidal wave. They poured through the breach, their war cries echoing through the city streets. The defenders, weary and outnumbered, fought with the courage of desperation, but they were slowly being pushed back. The battle had entered its final brutal stage. The streets of Valoria, once filled with the joyous sounds of life, now echoed with the clash of steel, the screams of the wounded and the cries of the dying. The air was thick with the smell of blood and smoke. King Hadrian, his armor dented and bloodied, rallied his remaining soldiers. He would fight alongside his people until his dying breath. Amidst the chaos, two figures met on the blood-soaked cobblestones. King Hadrian and King Draven, their eyes locked in a battle of wills as fierce as the one raging around them. Their swords clashed, the sound ringing out like a death knell in the heart of the dying city. Hadrian, fueled by righteous fury, fought like a man possessed. Each swing of his sword was a testament to his love for his kingdom, for his people. But Draven, larger and stronger, was relentless. His blows rained down upon Hadrian like a storm, each one threatening to overwhelm the weary king. Their duel was a dance of death, a whirlwind of steel and fury. Around them the battle raged, but for these two kings nothing else existed but this final, desperate confrontation. The fate of Valoria, the fate of two kingdoms, hung in the balance. One king would live, the other would die. Draven, sensing Hadrian's weariness, disarmed the valiant king with a final, brutal blow. Standing over his fallen foe, Draven raised his sword, ready to deliver the final blow. But his eyes, cold and calculating, were not on Hadrian. They were fixed on something behind the king, something that glinted in the firelight. It was the crown of Aetheron. The legendary artifact, the object of Draven's obsession, lay half-hidden amidst the rubble of the fallen city. The prophecy was true. The crown was real, and now it was his. With a roar of triumph, Draven turned away from the defeated Hadrian. His ambition, his destiny was finally within reach. He strode towards the crown, his eyes ablaze with a lust for power that eclipsed even his bloodlust. He reached for the crown, his fingers closing around its cold, metallic surface. As he lifted it, a surge of energy coursed through his body. He felt power, raw and intoxicating, flowing through his veins. The siege of Valoria was over. The once proud city lay in ruins, its streets littered with the bodies of the fallen. King Hadrian, defeated and imprisoned, could only watch as Draven, his brow now adorned with the crown of Aetheron, addressed his victorious army. Draven's voice, amplified by the power of the crown, boomed across the shattered cityscape. He declared himself the ruler of Valoria, the rightful king by conquest. His soldiers roared their approval, their cheers echoing through the ruins. A new era had begun, an era ruled by the iron fist of King Draven. But even as Draven reveled in his victory, a small flicker of defiance remained. The Shadowblades, their mission a failure, watched from the shadows. They had failed to save their king, their city, but their fight was far from over. They would become a thorn in Draven's side, a constant reminder that his victory was not absolute. Valoria was just the beginning. The world would tremble before him.